Welcome back inside the Veterans Memorial Arena on this Wednesday night as the Senators in a big East Division battle against the Norfolk Admirals. And during our first intermission break, we visited with Binghamton tough guy Kerstin Yablonski, and obviously everyone quite familiar with his line of work and what his job is with the hockey team, being the tough guy, the protector, and all that type of thing. Thought we'd change it up a little bit here as we have an off-ice guest for the first time ever during our B-Sens broadcast here. And with that, we welcome in Jeremy's wife, Kerstin Yablonski. Kerstin, thanks for joining us here. And I guess first and foremost, a little bit out of curiosity on my end, how does a hairdresser meet a hockey player?
Hairdresser meeting a hockey player. Well, I worked for a salon at the time, and they were sponsoring the Milwaukee Admirals, and I just started at the salon, so I was the first person to go to do the dancers' hair, and we did their hair before the games and after, and always saw the hockey players in the arena and hanging out.
So not even seeing a hockey game, usually you kind of think someone kind of follows a guy on the ice and somehow through a social type of gathering able to make contact with a player, but that wasn't the way it was between you guys.
No, and in fact we couldn't talk to really anybody, but we did talk, and that's how it all started.
So once you met Jeremy, and obviously with a little bit of a specialized line of work that he is in, being the policeman out there for the Senators and every team he's played before coming here to the Southern Tier, first impressions, I guess you knew he was a hockey player. When did it come about, and what were your thoughts on finding out exactly, typically, what he did on the ice?
It came from him, and he actually gave me some videos to watch before I went to his first game just to see what he does so I wouldn't react the way I do sometimes watching him fight. It was hard to see, and when my first game went, it went good. I'm glad I had to see some videos.
First game, and so first fight you saw?
Yes, crazy. It was crazy, but actually I liked it. I don't know. It was a good experience, and I liked the adrenaline rush. I just liked what he did.
Now, talk a little bit more as the relationship between you and Jeremy kind of evolved and becoming a little bit more emotionally attached to him. Did your viewpoint change on what he did out there, and obviously seeing him drop the gloves and fighting the other team's tough guys on what I would assume was a regular basis from the very start of his pro career up until what we see here in Binghamton? Did your viewpoint change or different feelings as you kind of worked a little bit deeper into your relationship with Yabo?
Yes, it has changed a lot. After we had a kid and married and stuff, I don't want him to hurt himself. And it changes a lot. You worry about other things, and you see what they go through day in and day out, all the pain, and I guess you expect and appreciate their job more.
Well, certainly we'll bring up the aspect of obviously a young daughter now coming to the games. I'm not quite sure how regular a basis, but with that, she's been exposed to that. But first of all, talk about Jeremy. Obviously, we've talked upon the hockey end of it and the fighting. Mixed martial arts, certainly then again, I would think the relationship and your reaction to it having changed a little bit more because the intensity has ratcheted up quite a bit. For folks that haven't seen it, you can come to a hockey game and see Yabo fight, and you think, boy, it doesn't get much better than that or much more intense than that. But MMA and cage fighting, a whole different ball game. Talk about, I'm sure you were brought into that decision-making process as far as his involvement in that. Talk about your perspective on that.
My perspective is a little different than his. He seems to think that the cage fighting is much safer. They get to wear gloves, and on the ice they could fall, crack their head open. They're bare-fisted. But cage fighting is a lot different. You just go until you tap out, and it's very hard for me to see that doing the cage fighting.
I was going to say, now you've talked about watching hockey games. Do you watch some matches that he's taken part in?
Yes.
As far as the cage fighting?
Yes, I had.
And talk about that experience.
Oh, well, they didn't last very long, actually, so that was a good thing.
The one good thing is Yabo is such a strong guy. You've got the right man in your corner because I don't think he loses a whole lot, so that's certainly a positive end of it.
Knock on wood. It was fun. It was fun. They didn't last long, and I'm glad for that. He's talked about doing it again, and for the family, he loves it. He's done boxing his whole life, and that's his passion.
No, the level of this, Kerstin bringing it up earlier, is Kerstin Yablonski, my second intermission guest here tonight in B-Sens Hockey. Young daughter now, Taylor, just over 3 years old. Talk about how mom and dad explains what daddy does for a living. It's easy to have mom take her to work and say, oh, I'm working on doing people's hair every day and things like that. But talk about the conversation of here's what daddy does and here's what you're going to see when you go to a game with us.
Well, it's getting harder. Now that she's 3, she understands. She knows his number on the ice. And when he drops the mitts, she knows. And either it's full out cry or did Daddy win? She just wants to know the outcome of it. Last year was a lot better. She cried, but she didn't really understand. So now I have to do a lot of explaining. Night before a game, every night before a game now she asks, is Daddy going to fight? And that's where we go from.
That's got to be tough. And even though he's successful at what he does, it still is difficult to see basically what evolves as, whether it's MMA or a hockey fight. It's a street fight out there. It's within most confines of society. It's against the law, but having to explain that to a 3-year-old whose mind is still growing and probably really can't even grasp the whole concept of what she's seeing, that would be a difficult task for you guys.
It is, and I'm glad she hasn't, at any of her play dates, started to drop the mitts and...
Never even gave a thought about that angle of it. That's tough.
Yes, it is.
Well, anything else you'd like to add, Kerstin? It's been an interesting visit, always getting the other perspective. It's, there's always a woman behind the man, but when you take a look at what Yabo does, it really takes a lot of strength, I think, to be that woman, and obviously with a family involved, it's difficult as well.
It is. We have a lot of support, and Binghamton's a great area, and we have a lot of friends and family here, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time and stopping by here. Kerstin Yablonski, the wife of Binghamton enforcer Jeremy Yablonski, my second intermission guest here tonight on B-Sens Hockey. Stay with us. Plenty more coming, including third period action between the Sens and Admirals on the Senators Hockey Network.